Nederlands doen?
Kan Nederlands. Maar het ligt eraan.
Gaan we zien. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, first English then. Welcome. Welcome to all of you. And some of you have been attending a master's examination this morning, so you all know how things go. But for those of you who haven't, we'll have a presentation by Max first. About a quarter of an hour, okay. And then, next in line will be us on this side of the table to put some questions to you. And afterwards we'll debate how things went and come back for a final decision on your, how you've done. And that includes, of course, the thesis, which is much more important than what happens now, but still, yes, I wish you all the luck.
Right.
Nice.
Thank you very much. Thank everyone for being here. Welcome to the presentation of the defense of my thesis, which is named From Theory to Practice, Exploring Stoic Pragmatism for a Life of Resilience and Significance. With my thanks, of course, to my supervisor, Professor Dr. Han van Roeder, and my advisor, Dr. Katrina Bauer. So, we go on. This is for me, but every slide will have a color circle on the right top. It's for me to know for the timing that some things I will just skip, some things we will explain moderately. But in a discussion, we can always come back to these slides to have a real discussion about the content of my thesis. Now, this is the content of the defense of my thesis. We will start with this block right here, which is how and why is my thesis about Stoic pragmatism. And if you ever get lost about where we are, just look at the right bottom of the slide, and every slide you will see where we are. But now we will start with the first chapter of this defense. So this beautiful man is John Lachs. With his family, he ran away from Hungary from the Second World War, and he's now living in America. And he is a centennial professor of philosophy, an emeritus philosopher focused on human nature and a lot of things. But this was the first person that I was focused on about the philosophy I have been writing about, which you will know more about. And that is right here. He published 2 pieces of literature. The first one is an article in the journal Speculative Philosophy, as you can see right at the bottom, in 2005. And this article was copied and pasted inside of this book, Stoic Pragmatism. And it was published in 2012. And his claim that he makes has not been changed at all about Stoic Pragmatism, which you can see right here. And what did he claim? Well, he claimed that a view we might call Stoic Pragmatism is not only possible, but also desirable, and that it provides a better attitude toward life than either of the 2 theories alone. But my thesis question then is Stoic Pragmatism really possible? And is Stoic Pragmatism really desirable? So it was a test I wanted to make. So how have I researched Stoic Pragmatism? First and foremost, Stoic pragmatism is Stoicism and pragmatism combined. So it would be fair, I believe, to study Stoics and then the pragmatist and then Stoic pragmatism. So I studied the late Stoa, Lucius Annaeus Seneca, was Epictetus, from left to right, Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius, which is a very cool guy because he was a Emperor of Rome, by the way. Everybody was pretty cool. And then, as you can see in the time, they were living around the birth of Jesus Christ and later. And then much later on, like in the Industrial Revolution somewhere, you see the American scientist, mathematician, logician, philosopher Charles Sanders Peirce. And then you see William James, psychologist and philosopher, and John Dewey, philosopher, psychologist, and educational reformer. So I studied these people with these books. Now I have all these books here, but it takes too much time to show them. But of every person, I have a book, which was, of course, translated because they wrote in Greek. Even though, he spoke in Greek. Well, maybe also, no, Greek. But he's taught in Rome, so there's maybe a difference. But anyway, we can digress. So, after I had a grasp of what Stoicism was and what pragmatism was, then I would go on to Stoic pragmatism. It is right here, as I've already shown you, that I have been studying John Lachs' Stoic pragmatism, But I also added another article, which is called Toward a Practice of Stoic Pragmatism written by Stephen A. Miller and Yasuko Tauka. Yasuko Tauka is a Japanese person, and Stephen A. Miller an American, but he lives in Japan, by the way, and they wrote this in English. This is really cool, interesting, I think. So, yeah, but this is how I did it, but why did I do it? That's the question. Well, I have two reasons. Life demands great efforts from all human beings, and I believe that if there is a philosophy that might help us live with the demands of life as we know them, I should offer a contribution to the quest of making our lives better. And the second one, just ignore the text, but I was just interested in Stoic acquiescence and pragmatic amelioration, difficult word, before I even started doing Stoic pragmatism, because, well, I read them like personally every night before sleep, and I was really like, wow, this is cool, so I want to go on into this. But there's another personal reason which we can discuss, and I will only read the blue part, due to the time. Marcus and Pierce, somewhere, have given me a sense of the relationship between the divine and the natural as interconnected, rather than contradictory aspects of human experience. Studying Stoic pragmatism will, I hope, allow me to delve deeper into these combined worlds and discover their relationships as a gateway to reconcile with religiosity, spirituality, and idealism with secularity, worldliness, and realism, which in our time has been combated, well, all the time, has been combated with each other. So, that was the first part of this presentation, which was, that. Now we go to the second part, which is, what is the Stoic attitude toward life? Which only has one slide, luckily. So how I did it was like, okay, so first let's study Seneca. Now we have done that, I've given a study of him in my thesis. Now let's do Epictetus, and then Marcus in Stoic philosophy. And then with those three combined, I made a summary, which is a Stoic summary, and I have written a little note, like which is 5 times smaller than the summary I made, just for you to know what Stoicism a little bit is, you know? So here goes. The Stoic attitude centers on rational decision-making, personal virtue cultivation, and accepting external circumstances. It emphasizes recognizing the divine essence within, fostering interconnectedness with others, and practicing self-discipline through virtues. This mindset promotes inner peace, empathy, and personal growth, ultimately aligning one's life with the harmony of the universe. Well, we can discuss about what this really means later on. But from out this summary, well, another summary like in my thesis, we can make up these 7 tenets that I've described, and I've justified them on the basis of the findings I made of these 3, to show that, you see, Stoicism, well, at least classical Stoicism, is about these tenets here. Time, so we will discuss them if you want to. So we go to the third part. What is the pragmatist attitude toward life? Well, the same way, different color, right side, I liked it. The same way I did this with Pierce, William James, and Dewey. Here's pragmatic philosophy, here's pragmatist philosophy. Technical difference, but it exists. Also, I made a summary that also addresses 7 core tenets. And also they're here. So you have this aesthetic framework to see, you know, 3 people, 3 summaries of 1 summary, 7 Stoic tenets or pragmatist tenets. Let's combine them, let's see what this really means, you know. So, for your knowledge right now, what is pragmatism in a very small nutshell? Well, the pragmatist attitude values practicality, of course, empirical evidence, and the integration of theory and practice. Truth is seen as a social construct, and the focus is on continuous personal and societal development for the betterment of humanity. It encourages open-mindedness, collective exploration, and the pursuit of positive outcomes through practical experience and knowledge. Okay, somewhat. So then, what is the Stoic pragmatist attitude toward life? Here, I will go more in detail because this is actually the point of my thesis. And well, I will not go read this text, but John Locke combined Stoicism and pragmatism by giving these 3 arguments, well, stages, inside of these stages there are different arguments, and the stages are the compatibility and justification. So why do they fit? And here is how I show it that they fit. Beyond active and passive, like that well, pragmatists are not only active, or should not be like focused on improving everything all the time, and Stoics are not really only like passive and let it all slide, and even if you suffer you can just chill and relax in the harmony of nature. No, they are also actually as active as pragmatists, only their motivations differ, he says. And then last but not least, acceptance and improvement. Well, it's a little bit the same, but in a different way. He's saying that, well, everywhere that you want to improve a situation, you have to accept the context to even make an improvisation of an improvement. I can make examples of this, we can discuss this, but let's go on. And this was to make, the Stoic pragmatism as sufficient as possible and more desirable than either stay we alone. Now, there come slides that have more details. Let's just slowly go over them, but not too, we're not going to go with this. But anyway, I made a logical framework of how his arguments are in simple terms, because it is more detailed than this. But he's just saying that, if this is true, then this must be true. And then this is true, then this must be true. And so here I demonstrate that it's true, so it must be true. He's just saying that, well, let me argue for a point of a possibility. That means that if this is true, that it must be so that Stoic pragmatists can also be true. And then he demonstrates, you see, this must be true. So the conclusion is pragmatism and Stoicism are not incompatible. I added in some context, because here he says that in some situations it is wise as a Stoic to be more pragmatic, or the other way around. And if you know what the attitudes would be, and you would understand, but you can speak about it later. So here I will skip this, but just know that here he says that pragmatism and Stoicism are practically, but not motivationally, not incompatible. Practically is just the habits of life that you are doing, and motivationally can be more the idea of why you are doing it. And then last but not least, pragmatism and Stoicism are not incompatible. So you see here that the strongest argument he makes is that they are just not incompatible after all, in all cases. Here it's more, well, half-half, mind and, what is it, matter? No, philosophy of mind, let's keep that over. And then you have the weakest one, just in some contexts. So, but yeah, all the point is, it's not incompatible. That's what he wants to say. There are two arguments in Lach's defense that I find questionable. Maybe this is irritating to see all of these letters, but follow my hand. The first one is a question of categorization and of naming. And the point I was making of this critical thing is that, are we not dealing with improved neo-Stoic, neo-pragmatists who are in fact neither Stoics nor pragmatists, saying that maybe you're making a new type of Stoicism and pragmatism, so new that you're not really even talking about the classical ones. So is it then really the philosophy that you're trying to convey? And but it doesn't really matter that much, maybe. But this one I was annoyed about, even though I would try to be Stoic. But anyway, my point here is a question of reading and of interpretation. And that is that, was Lach's interpretation of Epictetus extraordinary, probably because he misread what Epictetus actually thought? And yes, he misread what Epictetus actually thought. So that's pretty cool to see that an emeritus philosopher can even make mistakes too, and a student in master philosophy can say something is okay. I need to stay humble, actually. Okay. Okay. So this is then the text of Yasuko Tauka, and this is Stephen A. Miller, a photo of himself on Twitter. I could not find any other photo that I think was him, so I had to use this. But well, they built on the article of John Lach's, and they say, you know what, this is a nice theory and all, actually very nice, but we want to make it even more practical. We are giving you 5 practices like a handbook that you can follow and activate throughout your life so that your life actually becomes better. So these 5 practices are awareness, moral holidays, good enough, leaving others alone, courage. So how do they do this? Well, again, we will not read everything, but this is how they normally do it. So first they describe Stoic awareness, which is correct. They are very correct in their Stoic and pragmatist analysis, I find. I really like the text. They write it here, right? And then they're like, but anyway, this is a little bit stupid in some ways because the world in this regard is not only focused on the self, and there are more worlds here, like we are people that are worlds. We have different perspectives, different knowledge, different desires, different discriminations even. So it's really rare to think that we will all be the same in some like a religious paradigm. So that is what the pragmatist critique was. It's like you have to go out of your circle and believe that even other circles have their own truths, like William James says. What is the combination of Stoics and pragmatists is this. Is to have a balance in life where you go out, like if you're heterosexual, go out to an LGBTQ plus organization for once. If you're an atheist, go out to a church for once just to experience new life forms that you were not open to. And why is that Stoic? Well, if you go out and open yourself to hardship and to difficulties, later on you will be peaceful because you already knew these challenges. So that's why. So he did this with every practice. I'll not go into this, like skip. So moral holidays, good enough, leaving others alone, courage. But what's their conclusion? Well, this is their conclusion. MNT conclude that when we regularly perform the 5 practices, we develop both the defensive Stoic trunk, which is like this tree here, the trunk, and proactive pragmatic sprouts, which are not the leaves, but something else. And that these 2 elements work to form a unified and stable, but still growing organism, responding to the stresses and possibilities of its broader environment. So just see, shield as Stoicism makes you shield against pain and hardship and all that, and to deal with life effectively so you don't get, depressed by it. And pragmatism is to, now, due to Stoicism, I'm not so depressed anymore. Let's make some change in the world to actually be proactive for the better of humanity, not just like bombing Iran or something, which, okay, we go on. So, time still, yes. Is Stoic pragmatism really possible? 2 parts. I'm just going to read the thick words, but know that here is my analysis at the left of Lach's Stoic pragmatism. 3 Stoic tenets were not in his Stoic pragmatism. Only pragmatist Stoics were in there. So is it really Stoic pragmatism? Not really. So I was like, you know what? Let me fix that up with MNT's text. Maybe it would be stronger then. And yes, these 2 tenets were reconciled. But Stoic pragmatism in the combined works of Lachs and MNT includes 6 tenets of classical Stoicism and 7 tenets of classical pragmatism. Notably, the Stoic tenet of the divine connection is omitted from this framework. So the question of God is omitted, is not in the theory of Stoic pragmatism, even when it's revised with the new contemporary text. Which is a problem because classical Stoics all think that there's one substance and that is God. Your mind has an attribute, that's rationality, which is godly. Everything is God in some way. Okay. Well, okay. Oh wow, I'm very long. Okay, I'm just gonna end it soon then. There's a funny conversation, but we will not do it then. So yeah, the question of God, is it really possible? No. So I cannot say definitely that it's possible until now, but if it would be incorporated, it would be nice. Okay, but is it desirable? Well, in ethical dilemmas with religious or spiritual aspects, yes. Why? Because a Stoic pragmatist is not a religious nut that always thinks that he is right, but he's also not an atheistic nut who thinks that he's also always right. He sees the value in both sides and can reconcile them in dilemmas where you have these problems. And they are pro-scientific, but they are also pro-ethics and morality, which you could say is some spiritual thing, but Stoics, I don't know if you could call them spiritual, but let's say the word spiritual. Yeah, okay. But in general, is it desirable? Well, for me it is, but I think life is for everyone, like it's relative and contextual. If you say it's not desirable, then it's not desirable for you, whatever. But still, I want to make a point, and that is, when it comes to its general desirability, Stoic pragmatism serves as a bridge, harmonizing rational virtues and integrating practical experience. It blends the Stoic and pragmatist attitudes and promotes a desirable approach to life. By bridging these aspects, Stoic pragmatism offers a comprehensive and engaging framework that combines philosophical principles with practical application, so thinking and doing at the same time. Thus, Stoic pragmatism becomes a bridge that unifies and harmonizes these essential elements, allowing for a holistic and desirable approach to life. I believe. This is an argument. You don't have to accept this. Okay. I've been very long speaking here, but
Last minute.
okay. So what have I learned? Well, I embarked on a personal journey to rediscover my lost sense of piety and curiosity, exploring various belief systems and ways of life. Each step of my journey allowed me to understand and respect different perspectives, fostering acceptance of others' chosen paths. Because, Stoic pragmatism revealed the importance of blending idealism and realism, inner harmony and external challenges, moral principles and individual agency, wisdom and experience, mindfulness, like meditation, and action, and self-contentment and personal growth. It emphasized the unity of seemingly opposing aspects in human nature, highlighting the interdependence of various facets of existence. Stoic pragmatism encourages embracing contradictions and temperaments, leading to a more harmonious understanding of life. Last slide. We can maybe discuss about it, but what can others learn from this? So not only what can you learn from this if you would read this text? I doubt it, but still. Embrace personal journeys of exploration to rediscover lost aspects of oneself and gain new perspectives. There's a whole world out there, worlds, experience, and go on. But respect and understand the beliefs and paths chosen by others, fostering acceptance and empathy, in most cases, not all of them. Recognize the value of integrating contrasting elements in life to achieve harmony and balance. Understand that human existence is a blend of various facets, and unity can be found in apparent contradictions, so bind differences together. Explore different philosophies and ideas to enrich one's understanding and approach to life. Learn other politics that you don't agree with, just to know what the human being even is. Consider how Stoic pragmatism can provide insights into blending diverse perspectives and diverse perspectives and promoting harmony. It's always the same. Ultimately, this story demonstrates the transformative power of open-mindedness, exploration, and a comprehensive understanding of human nature. I think so. So this was it. Thanks for watching. Thank you.
Dankjewel, Max.